Hey dorks, just a quick message reminding you to head over to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast and give us a follow. We live stream when we record our new podcast episodes, and we're live streaming video game sessions on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We're playing super rad stuff like Among Us, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, Jackbox games, and Tabletop Simulator. Come hang out and play along with us. That's twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. Mind Gap Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
I'm Justin.
And so excited because this week we have a very special guest. You know him as a Twitch streamer. You know him as the leader, the guiding force behind the Positive Thoughts community. Please welcome ForSale18. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
How are you, man?
Good. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course. I'm so excited to have you here. It's at the risk of sounding creepy. If that's how good conversations start, right? At the risk of sounding creepy. When we really started leaning into Twitch once the pandemic started, I just started like watching Twitch streamers. You were one of the streams that came up. Really just sort of hopped in, enjoyed you and the community. Everyone was so kind and so welcoming, and I was just like, I like this. This is the first place that the stream that I came back to regularly to sort of like hang out and just see what was going on, and it was just a really cool experience. So this is a really good moment for me to have you on here. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the support. Appreciate you popping in.
For sure.
I'm glad to be on here.
That's so cool. Well, we got a couple things we just want to get out of the way real quick. We'll do some housekeeping, and then we'll get to the good stuff. So first things first, if you all don't know, you can follow Mind Gap Podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify. We're at other places, but in particular, check us out on Spotify. We exist there. You should listen to all of our episodes. Secondly, join our Discord server. Come hang out with our community. We're small but mighty. We're a bunch of nerds. We're a bunch of dorks. We play games together. Come join our Discord. You can check it out on our Twitch page, or if you're hanging out in the chat, Nightbot will tell you how to do that. Super easy. Also, we moved our merch home to Redbubble because fuck Teespring. Am I right? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
They rebranded to Spring, like anyone gives a shit.
What?
And sorry, I don't like Teespring.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, we got an email. It's like, we're new now. We're Spring. It's like, thanks. You still suck. But we moved our shit over to Redbubble. So go check out Redbubble. Look for Mind Gap Podcast on there. We've got a lot of great stuff. We got a couple of designs up there. Go check that out. Cover yourself with some wonderful articles of clothing and get yourself a coffee cup, whatever you want. Support the podcast. Enjoy yourselves. We appreciate it. And last but not least, we also stream every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Central. We do a video game night. Typically, it's just community-based, sort of fun stuff. Although this Saturday, Justin, do you know what's this Saturday? Do you know what we're doing this Saturday?
I think I know.
That's right. We're going back into the dungeons for Dungeons & Dragons, the fantasy board game, starring our very own Justin, who's going to be joining the stream as an elven wizard. We've also got Eric, who's going to be coming back as Josen, our cleric. We've got Sam coming back as Regdar, the warrior. And of course, our Australian halfling rogue, Lida, Jared, will be there. So excited. I think we're in Adventure 7 now, which is super exciting. So we really can't wait to see how you guys handle that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check us out this Saturday, 8 p.m. Central at twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. Special shout out to other folks there in the chat. Kit Kat Marie, hello. Mindy Marcus, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here. And that being said, for sale.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about you. And honestly, actually, at the top of the show, we'll do this again on the back end. Let's talk about promote your stream, promote all your stuff. Where can people find you? What are you up to? Let people know what's going on and where they can find you.
Sure. Yeah. So I stream on Twitch Wednesday through Saturday. Pretty much every day is completely different. Wednesday is like a variety day. So I've played through everything from Detroit Become Human to Life is Strange series, all kinds of stuff on that day. Thursdays, we do the talk show called Collective Thoughts, where it's a sex positive talk show. We talk about anything and everything related to sex, dating, and relationships openly and honestly with a group of people. To do half men, half women, half LGBT, half straight, so you get all different perspectives covering the topics that we discuss. And then Fridays we do Jackbox, and then memes, YouTube videos, and TikTok videos. And then Saturday we do multiplayer games. Outside of that, you can find me on pretty much any social media platform under either ForSale18 or ForSale1818 if it was already taken. My main one right now is TikTok. TikTok has taken over my life.
Has it?
Yeah. What do you like about TikTok?
It is super easy to grow on and get noticed on. So I started on there in November and I'm already at like 80K followers.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, sir, I mean, you must be putting out that grade A content, man. That's awesome.
Right. But then like making the content on TikTok, I can then repurpose that content for Instagram, Twitter, all the other stuff. Heck, I saw a TikTok someone made said, if you're not posting your TikToks to YouTube Shorts, you're also missing out. Oh, I need to get on that as well.
Everyone seems to be jumping on this. Oh, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, everyone seems to be jumping on the short video. It's interesting that Vine went under, but the concept still exists, and now even more, bigger than it ever was. It seems.
Yeah,
I don't understand what Vine didn't have that these other ones. Well, I guess maybe it's just because 6 seconds was too long or too short to really get. Like maybe like TikTok found that sweet spot. I don't know.
How long are TikTok? Are they up to like a minute? Is that what they are?
So yeah, you can do up to a minute. They're experimenting with 3 minutes. It's not fully rolled out. It's still like testing that kind of stuff phase. But right now it's like anything up to a minute. But the shorter they are, the better it is because the algorithm looks for view time.
Gotcha.
So if your videos get viewed all the way through, then it's more likely to get pushed out to more people.
Gotcha.
Mike, we experimented with Vine when it first came out, and my problem with those apps is I can never come up with what I feel like is quality short form content. Like that's condensed enough and still interesting. Like, how do you go about the process? It's endlessly fascinating to me. People who are finding success on these platforms, like how do you go about coming up with the content for a 1 minute interesting video?
So I started out with, I looked up some art. So I'm sure you all have heard of the website Lifehacker.
Yes.
I believe I've heard of it. Yes.
I've religiously read that website for Lord knows how many years. I probably can credit most of my knowledge back to Lifehacker because they have so many useful articles on there. But I just looked up a couple of like sex articles to make sure like I had the correct information, that kind of stuff. So then I summarized the info and then put it out in video format to start with. And honestly, like looking back, I'm like, God, these are fucking horrible. These are so cheesy. But it worked. Like it worked. It at least started the ball rolling, the process, and then I started getting like questions that I could reply to and give me more video ideas and stuff. So you just got to start. You just have to start.
That's gotta help though. Like when you've got people replying back to you and feeding you questions, like then you've got an engaged fan base who is feeding you the prompts for like, then it's just a snowball to your point after that. So that's the hard part is starting and just getting this first few cranked out.
It is.
I think what I really like about TikTok is just the ability to sort of collaborate with people, and people can see your thing and then add to it, which is how we've got the sea shanty. Which is this is just all of a sudden people adding on to that song. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool that people can do that and do the duets and stuff like that. So cool.
It is pretty sweet. I've seen duets where they take like someone complained like don't do a duet if you're not adding anything to it. So it was just a chain of people adding to it where they're just like standing there with like an object going off screen, as somebody else would finish that object off screen and then put their body, and then someone else. Like it was just a constant chain of that. No, genius.
That's the stuff that I love, where people are like, all right, well, we'll just keep this going. Who wants to take on the next part of this? This is amazing. That's so cool.
The internet awesome. At its finest.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. At its very finest. So I really want to just also, you know, again, you mentioned the Positive Thoughts sex forum that you have on Thursdays. Just really, I think it's a really cool thing that you're doing and putting together, because the phrase sex positive has a weird vibe with me, because I knew someone who said they were sex positive and they were just creepy. And he was in the improv world in Chicago, mm-hmm. and he was just, I think, more sexually aggressive. And he actually wrote an article in the Huffington Post as he was leaving Chicago and going to New York about how he's just slamming the community, being like, you know, everyone's so uptight and yada, yada, yada. And there was a lot of blowback on him for that. Him telling stories about, you know, just, and I watched it happen like on stage and things, like he would just do weird things, like two characters would be at a funeral, and his contribution to the scene was he would come in and like fuck a corpse. And it's just like, all right, that's cool. You know, that's so
exactly
when I hear in general dudes be like, yeah, I'm sex positive, I'm like, okay. So you're just horny? Is that what you're telling me? But
I mean, yeah. But,
which again, nothing wrong with that, but as long as it's constructive, right? You know, in a way that's also, you know, not off-putting to other people. And so, like, when
exactly.
You know, I've seen a couple of your forums and things like that in your community in general. I just find it very refreshing to see people who are just open, honest about who they are, what they're doing, and then just having these kind of dialogues about sexuality, I think, is incredibly important. And I guess, you know, for me, my question is, like, how did you come up with this idea for this forum? Like, what drove you to do that? And, you know, what's kind of like the genesis behind all that?
I mean, honestly, so I started on Twitch and thinking, like, I play a lot of video games, I'll just start streaming. And started streaming, and then I was like, okay, I suck at this, so I need to figure out how to get better at it. So started figuring out how to improve, and then improved to a point where I was like, okay, I need like show, like something to revolve everything around almost. So started looking around and saw that like talk shows and discussion panels, that kind of stuff were doing well on Twitch. So I was like, okay, how can I put my own twist on this? I mean, I had gotten out of a long-term relationship that was open. I had learned a lot during that time. Plus, like, before that, growing up, I've always been interested in sex and like learning about sex. I grew up with Cosmopolitan magazine, Men's Health magazine, reading all about it. Anytime I could get my hands on something and learn more about it, I did. So like reading books like the Ethical Slut, Open, More Than Two, all that kind of stuff was very eye-opening. So I figured, okay, why not do a talk show centered around talking about like sex and dating and relationships and stuff. So started it out, tried it out, and it's like I started it for fun. I literally started it for fun because I was like, I know a lot about this. Sex sells. I'm not stupid. So let's just go with it. And then people started writing in like, hey, this is actually helpful. This is like useful information that I didn't know about like at all. I was not taught any of this, which was like super eye-opening. And like, I don't know, it's weird to sit and think like the content you put out on Twitch or YouTube or TikTok or wherever like can literally affect people's lives.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but I imagine that's pretty cool. I mean, with the content we create.
Typically, when we affect people's lives, it's in a very negative way. Like,
I would say negative.
People watch us and go, "Oh man, I am just dumber for watching that."
I mean, or they're like, huh, I never heard that perspective on the Star Wars trilogy before. You know, like, you know, these nerds, you know, like
hot takes over at Mind Gap. Yeah.
Hot takes, big time. No, that's really cool. Because I feel like, you know, sex is such a weird topic, right? Like, I grew up where my parents never gave me the talk.
Yeah.
I figured everything out. I think at one point, my mom was just like, always wear a condom. I think that's the most I ever got out of it. My dad never mentioned sex to me once, ever. So I'm just thankful that I was careful and that, you know, whatever. It's one of those things that you just kind of stumbled through it. And I'm thankful. But at the same time, it's like, why is this so weird? Like, why can't we talk about it? You know, like, why is it weird to, like, I have a daughter and she's 5 and I'm like, I'm going to have no problem talking to her about sex when she gets older. I'm like, yeah, listen, you're going to do it. I get it. It's fine. Just be safe, be smart. Like,
yeah,
it's totally cool. That's not going to be a weird conversation for me. You know, like, I don't understand. Why do you think, or Justin, what was it like for you growing up? I mean, did you have a very intense and specific sex talk with your parents?
Didn't have an intense and specific sex talk. My parents were open to answering questions if I approached them with questions as best they could. You know, I grew up Catholic, so we definitely had a little bit of like, we don't talk about this too much, but we'll try to answer as best we can. My dad never had a problem talking to me about it from his side, but it was never something that was it was never at the forefront of any sort of like, hey, we should probably talk about like prepping you for the rest of your life. It was never a cognizant conversation that we had. I wouldn't say that it was ever shied away from per se, so I feel thankful in that regard. I was always very curious, sexually curious though, as a kid. So like, I don't questions that I never asked because I just didn't. I think I also held a stigma where I was like, I don't want to ask my mom and dad about this. This is, I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the same way though. Like, I guess I've never understood why it's such a taboo subject, specifically in American culture, because we seem great with, you know, violence, you know, to the nines, but you know, we start talking about sex and whoa, pump the brakes. You know, we can't get into that realm. That's inappropriate.
I feel like religion and purity culture are the two main culprits for that. Religion has always pushed the narrative that you need to wait until marriage, and if not, you're a piece of shit sinner, with the worst scum in the universe. And so if you even think about asking questions or talk about it, you're just labeled a horrible person. It's like I don't understand. Like, I just did a panel talking about purity culture and the effects of it and stuff. It started back in like the 1990s. A book was written that came out that basically redefined how dating and sex and all that kind of stuff should be handled with Christianity, or no, evangelical Christianity, right? Something like that. But they took it and ran with it, and that included waiting till marriage, slut shaming, basically like shaming people if they were promiscuous. So it caused a lot of people to be very quiet about it. I think to the point now where it's like such a taboo topic to even like bring up and talk about. Like, people look at you like you have 3 heads if you bring it up.
Oh yeah.
It's so true. Like, I listened to some other podcasts where like comedians and whatever, they're just very open about like what they're, you know, like husband and wife were like, yeah, we had sex right before the show. And man, it was pretty wild. You remember you were blowing me, and he's like, why won't you eat my ass? That's all I want. I want you to eat my ass. She's like, I don't want to eat your ass. He's like, why not? It's my birthday. It's just like, how liberating just to be like, they're just talking about it. And at first I'm like, oh, it's a joke. And I'm like, this joke has been going on a long time. I think he wants her to eat his ass. Like, I think he really wants that to happen. And, you know, I'm just like, gosh, that's so nice because it's, you know, I remember, you know, growing up too, like
ass eating.
Yes, ass eating.
So nice.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, growing up too, it's like, at least where I grew up in rural Missouri, it was like, hey, what are you doing over there? Are you jerking off? No. And then at one point it switches over. It's like jerking off. You're like, goddamn right, I'm jerking off. Like, it's just totally, there's this shift of just like, you know, how that stuff changes. But the communication is definitely different. And that idea too of, you know, what is, you know, the double standard between men and women, right? Slut shaming and the idea of, you know, men can be promiscuous, but women can't. And not only that, just going back to it too, how awful would it be, and if this has happened, I apologize, but I mean, how awful would it be to wait to have sex until you were married? And how much of a disaster, would that be? Like, both people would be horrible. Just.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine the people that have waited until marriage to have sex. Like, that to me, it is just weird. That is just weird to me, because I'm like, would you buy a car without driving it first? Would you buy a house without doing a walkthrough first? Would you make any major decision in your entire life without checking it first? Like, what the hell? What?
Right.
But marriage, the one thing you're supposed to have until like you die, like you're supposed to be with them until you die, and you're like, nah, we'll just wing it, fuck it. Like, what?
Dinners and kisses on the lips are good enough. All right, you can figure out enough.
Oh,
and it's like no, because I knew someone who met a woman. They were very like sexually compatible, except she wanted to have her ass eaten, and he was like, I don't think I can do that. And she goes, I think this is gonna have to end because I need that in this relationship. Like, I need to have this happen. And he was like, they just mutually split because they weren't sexually compatible. Like, she needed to have that. He's like, I'm not into that. And that was it. Imagine if they'd gotten married and she was like, I want you to do this. He's like, no. And then you're married, right? And that's a deal breaker, right?
Fucking outsource it.
Outsource it.
I'll do everything else. Bob, get in here.
Yeah, come on. We need this part done, okay?
Bob the ass guy.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah, I definitely, you know, it's one of those things where I totally agree. Like, you got to figure out what you like, you know, and finding people that are also compatible with that too and on the same page. It's so important. It's so important.
It is super important.
Yeah.
People try to say that, like, I don't know, sex isn't that big of a deal in a relationship and stuff. Sex is a really big deal in a relationship, especially if you're going to be with that person the rest of your life. Like, you better be firing on all cylinders in your sex life.
I totally agree.
Well, I think it too, like, just that open. And it took a while it can take a while for people to get comfortable with each other, even in a relationship like that, to really be open and communicate with, like, good on that person in that example that you said, Doug, for being able to openly communicate that, because that could have been, you know, a very, very long life, you know, together with the wrong person. And, you know, to be able to communicate in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom and say, like, here's what I need, or I'd like to try this, and to have that safe space to for the person to not judge you and go, yeah, let's give it a shot and see what this is, and figure more about yourself out, like learn more about yourself in that process. I think it can't be overstated how invaluable that is, to be with the person that you feel that safe with.
And that's a good point too, Justin. Like, I've been married for it'll be 12 years on Friday.
Hey, mazel.
Thanks. And I mean, I've been with I'm gonna be 38, and I've been with my wife since I was 19. So, you know, oh my God, I just realized now I literally will have spent half of my life with my wife. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
Little poem for you. So, but again, like I've obviously been with her for a long time, but it's taken time for me to kind of open up a little bit. I'm about as vanilla as it gets with sexual appetites, man. I am boring, and that's fine. That suits me just fine. I don't have anything that's super wild. I'm pretty basic. But even just like little things to be like, to ask for different things or to suggest different things. Like it took me a while to get there because I feel weird, or I would feel like ashamed, or I'm like, oh, what if she, what if she says no and she's going to be like, what's this guy? He's weird that he wants to do this. And again, it was nothing weird. I was all in my head about it. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm just like, no, I'm going to ask, hey, let's do this. She's like, cool, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that great?
Right.
It's the best.
Isn't that nice? It's nice, right? It's nice.
It's nice, guys, right? It's nice. It's nice.
Like that.
No, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was like my long relationship. I was kind of in the same boat in that like it's kind of like feeling your way around and kind of working through everything, trying to figure out what you like, what you don't like, experimenting, learning about stuff. So yeah, I definitely went through those same phases as well. It's to the point now where I openly list that stuff on like dating apps and stuff because I don't want to go like I'm not gonna be someone's teacher again. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hold your hand and drag you through this shit again. Like either you're cool with it or you're not now.
Right.
No, I think that's true. Like I think the idea of dating nowadays I'd be like, I think I'll just be alone. Like I don't know if I could or that, or I would just be like that. I'd be like, this is what I'm into. Let's not waste our time. Right? Let's not. Yeah. I'm at the stage in my life where I'm like, hey, I mean, my time is very valuable. I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. Let's just talk about it. If you're not into this, cool. We'll have a dinner. We'll have a coffee, whatever, and we'll be on our merry way. Whatever. It's totally fine. No big deal. And I think there's something very refreshing and freeing about the idea of like, this is what I'm into. Who's with me?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you say it's interesting. You say that you're at a point in your life where I think it's really cool that the younger generation coming up behind us is just like naturally more open
They're
and
so
okay
open and
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
It's like a superpower.
Like, cause like you're 38, like, and you just recently got there. Imagine if you had that kind of freedom and that kind of like
Starting
just
from a young
rawness.
age, yeah.
Yeah, if you're like 18, you're like, yeah, I know what I want, and I'm not going to waste time with it. What a different path you might have walked. So interesting.
So a lot of how we act growing up, especially like with the shame and guilt around sex and it being a taboo, talking about it and stuff, is definitely correlates with how you were raised and how your parents handled sex and sexuality and handled those conversations. If they shamed you about masturbating, if they shamed you about, I don't know, a question you asked, or like if sex popped up on the TV and they were like, oh my God, cover your, like they treated like sex like it was the worst thing ever. That shit sticks with you for a long time until you process that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I distinctly remember being at a family gathering and Dances with Wolves was on, and the scene, we must have been, I mean, the cousins, you have that cousin circle where you're all about the same age. The cousins were probably like in the 7 to 10 range, and that scene came on where he biblically knows the woman, and I just remember distinctly like the parents' hands out of nowhere. We were just like, they were across the room, and it somehow the hands went right in front of the eyes, and we got yanked back as if we were being abducted, and like just pulled it. We got bagged and gagged and pulled into another room, which had its own ramifications. But I still remember that, and like anytime something comes on TV, mentally I'm past it, but I definitely think there's something there.
You still have that like twinge occasionally, like
yes.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm 37 and I'm married, and every time it comes on, I have to look like I'm like Are people gonna think I'm watching porn? Like
people are, yeah, like who's watching me right now?
I'm not into this. I'm not really into this. It's okay. No.
But like, just imagine if you were raised in a household where when that type of stuff came up on TV, nobody reacted to it. It was just normal.
Right.
Like they treated it like it wasn't a big deal. So you just grew up thinking, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Right.
How, man, it's weird to sit and think about like how much different your interactions and shit growing up would have been. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Because I specifically remember, like, you know, I'm so old. We used to tape things on the TV on VHS tapes, and my mom would specifically like edit around like I remember specifically the movie Christmas Vacation in the beginning where Clark Griswold is going to buy some stuff at the department store and the woman he's working with was like showing him her thong. My mom like edited around that. She stopped recording, and when that was done, she started again. So when I see it, he goes to talk and it just cuts and like they're leaving, because that's how it was. Like it was one of those things where like you can't watch this. And I you know, years later, I was like, oh shit, this scene actually plays out. Oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, oh, you just
put effort into that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I see an ass cheek. It's like, okay, big deal. Like, who cares? But that's definitely the vibe. It was like, there's boobs in this part, and it's so just bananas. And all it did was make me want to watch it more. It's forbidden fruit, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, also, like, I just thought of this because you were talking about movies, but like the fact that sex and sexuality is treated worse than guns and death and gore and like what? Like something we literally evolved to enjoy as humans is considered worse than murder and gore and guns and drugs and shit. Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes logical sense to me. Not
so backwards.
Yeah. It's bonkers.
George Carlin had a great bit on that where he said he wants to take anytime you use the word kill, just replace it with the word fuck. So like, it's like, how different would Westerns be? Like, all right, Sheriff, we got you. Now we're going to fuck you. And we're not going to fuck you quick. We're going to fuck you slow. And we're going to fuck you painfully. Like,
I think that might be worse.
He goes, see how you're all feeling right now? He goes, we're talking about the act of lovemaking to this sheriff, and you want me to be talking about the act of murdering him. Like, like that's fucked up. Like, you know, it's,
Yeah, I definitely, I also remember hanging out at one of my best friend's houses growing up, and I was watching a movie with his dad, and there came a part, it was such a bonkers movie. Like, I would love to find it at some point, because I don't even remember. All I remember was there's a guy, there were bad guys, they like boiled his feet so he couldn't walk for like the last half of the movie. But there's a sex scene like in it. And I remember like that scene came up with my friend's dad. My friend wasn't in the room. It's just me and my friend's dad. He's kind of like looking at me like he didn't know what to do. So he's like, I guess I'll fast forward. And as he's fast forwarding, he goes, I guess his feet are working just fine now, aren't they? As he's like, he's like on top in missionary style. He's like, I'm just watching it zoom by, which makes it even worse because they're just moving faster and stuff. I'm like, his feet are working.
Right. But so that gave Doug a complex. He has to finish quick now, and it just completely fucked him up.
Gotta do it fast, you know? Yeah. Gotta do it fast.
The race.
There's no pleasure
always
in this.
Win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
always win.
Well, it's funny too, because, and I don't know if I just heard these things. I'm not an expert, but things like that, I think for you've kind of talked about that too. That kind of almost develops your sexual. Does it develop kinks and sexual preferences based on some of these things that have happened, or is that? Am I getting that completely wrong?
Yeah, definitely can. I personally haven't like read any research on that, but I know that stuff that has happened in your childhood can stick with you into adulthood and turn into kinks and stuff. I mean, we see it with mommy issues, daddy issues, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I keep where they was it, having a daughter, it's like, it's my wife is always like, hey, she's gonna learn a lot about the guys, assuming she's heterosexual, or whoever she dates. She's like, she's gonna model a lot of that off of you. So I'm like, great, cool, extra pressure on top of trying to parent her. You know, I was like, I just want to know what good humor is. That's my goal. I'm like, I want you to be funny. Be funny.
I want you to be funny, and I want you to be able to, at the drop of a hat, reference any of the Marvel movies perfectly. That's all I need.
I'm wearing this like Infinity Gauntlet shirt, and today at dinner she goes, "Hey, those are the Infinity Stones on Thanos' gauntlet." I'm like, I'm doing a good job. High five. High five.
One of the only 5-year-olds that knows the word gauntlet.
Amongst other things.
You should be proud.
Yeah, I am very proud. I'm so proud of that. That's amazing. But I kind of want to talk about kinks a little bit more, and because I think that also based on just internet and people being more open, I think we've just become more and more aware of different kinks that exist, and how, again, normalizing them, right? The different things that exist out there. I know BDSM used to be like the big you know, that's the dark and dangerous community, but now actually one of our fans in the chat accidentally ended up at a BDSM bar, and he was like, this is kind of interesting. And it wasn't, you know, it's something that's so widely misconstrued as you know, what it is, and I just find it fascinating that there's these things that exist out there, and there's communities that are so supportive of each other that, you know, are able to I'm freezing. Okay, there we go. Sorry. I was like,
my chest tightened up because
few technical problems.
This is how it began last time.
But you know, there's a whole community of folks with different kinks out there, and I think it's great that you know, these places exist where people can talk about them, explore them, and things of that nature. And I think your community is one of them, for sale, and how you kind of allow that to happen. But what would you think is one of the most, based on your experience in your community, like what is the most misunderstood kink, or what is one of the most common things people misunderstand about kinks?
Oh Lord, that's a good question. One of the most misunderstood. Now, this definitely is not my personal thing, but this is a very heavily debated topic, even like in the BDSM, like kink world, that kind of stuff. But I think it's like DDLG or something like that. Something like daddy little girl, but basically it's like two consenting adults role playing the like dom daddy little girl type of mindset type of stuff. Some people view it as very kind of off-putting, and then that do it view it as just role playing with consenting adults. So that one is very heatedly debated.
I can see why that one would
right?
Yeah.
It definitely like skirts the line. It's like
I'll say this much. Not for me. You know, not for me. You know?
Not my cup of tea. You do you.
Yeah.
I'm not shaming by any means.
Yeah.
It's just it skirts a line for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something that Doug and I were talking off mic, or I think it was yesterday in the production meeting. We were saying, like, if you're not hurting anyone, if it's two consenting adults of legal age, you know, is it driving home, you know, and this is probably, I mean, this is obviously what is the debated part about this, but is it driving home a you know, bad behaviors, or is it reinforcing that kind of bad behaviors, or is it just something that two adults are in agreement with? You know, like, I guess where would be the danger in it? I guess if it seeps out of that relationship into the real world, I guess, or
I would personally think it would seep out into the real world if they didn't have that outlet.
That's a fair point too. Yeah.
That's
Like
a really good point.
like same with kind of like porn and that kind of stuff. I feel like, now don't quote me on this. I'd have to search, but I think I remember something about like rapes over the years have fallen due to the plethora of free pornography that's available now. Like,
Wow.
in part.
Sure.
Well, Pornhub, good job.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I would have to find the article on that
servicing
again,
your community.
I mean, it makes sense logically, right? Yeah, again, like statistics, pending for that. But because that's, there's that always joke, right? Like, dude, you need to get laid, or whatever. Like, just, you need to rub one out and just, and having that stuff available. I mean, it is true. It makes sense to me. So I'm sure a scholarly article would be great to go along with that. But yeah, right? Because pornography is a tricky one, right? Because if you fall down the rabbit hole, it's a dark place to go. And that's the one thing I am concerned about with my daughter is just like, hey, you'll probably have a smartphone at some point and I can't police. Nor do I really want to police everything you look at. I do, right. I don't really want to do that.
What's these tentacles?
I'm like, okay. Hentai, gotcha. Well, here's the thing. It's like, Dad, there's this movie with the squid. I want to go see it. I'm like, there it is.
Absolutely not.
What's this 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea movie all about? I'm like, it's a classic. It's I don't want to police that stuff, but it's also like, I think like most things, right? You slap like an R-rated movie. Someone who's under 17 or whatever the appropriate age is for that, I forget what it is, they could probably watch it and be okay, right? It's just kind of a standard thing. Just like someone could read a more advanced book and understand it better than other people. Yeah. The same thing with like sex. Like I saw my first porn when I was in 7th or 8th grade and it was pretty intense and it really messed with me. I remember feeling just physically gross for like 2 or 3 days after watching it. Because I'd watched softcore porn up to that point, and there's a big difference between softcore porn you watch on Showtime and Cinemax at night.
Yeah,
very big difference.
And regular old porno.
Those squiggly lines.
Yeah,
you hope they line up at the right moment. Yeah,
the passion and the staged nature of the softcore, very different from the visceral porno. That I watched where I was like, that's wild. Sure. So I think being able to put that stuff into context and understand it, because also I knew plenty of morons I grew up with who's like, this is what sex is. You guys shove 3 fingers in the girl and she loves it. It's like, no.
This is for show. You ask your partner what they like.
Exactly. And see, how hard is it to have that conversation, right?
Right. And I think that is the important conversation out of all of that's the key one to have, is that you're going to see this stuff and it's okay if you enjoy it, but don't apply this. It's the same, like, again, you're going to watch the Avengers. None of that applies to real life. Like, you're not going to go out and you're not going to shoot.
Well, I mean,
right, relax.
Hey, I don't want to Hulk out here, okay? I don't want to Hulk out here, all right?
Right. But I'm saying, like, it's watching a film, or it's watching a piece of what you could call art, or whatever, however you want to approach it. It's fiction, and you've got. I think that's the important conversation, the distinction to make when you're having this discussion with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard horror stories of people talking about, like, I don't know what he was doing, but he was using this weird position on me, and then I finally figured it out. He was using a position he saw in a porno. This is a story one of the panel members told. He was using a position that he saw in one of the pornos, and in the pornos they like the positions that angle well for the camera. He was doing it at an angle for a non-existent camera because that's what he saw in porn. I'm like, oh no, come on, what the fuck?
That's when I learned that, when I read like an article, it's like, hey, just so you know, like, it's not like, this is hard work, like being in pornos, because well, that's one of those reasons. Like, you're in really uncomfortable positions so that the camera can see. Like, you got to get that reverse master of that asshole, to make sure that the editing sequence makes sense,
right?
They're
so you know where they're at, right?
Exactly. You're like, well, hey, this is continuity, doesn't match up at all, like. But also the part too, like, I think they interviewed a female porn star, and she's like, you don't realize how absolutely exhausting it is to do like blowjob scenes, because she's like, you're doing it and your mouth is getting tired, it's getting sore, and then before you know it, like you can't keep it open as much, so you're grinding your teeth on this dude's dick, and they're like, can we wrap this up, because I'm kind of like, this isn't really working right now, like I'm really tired, and you know, kind of getting a peek into that, and you're like, oh right, this is a performance, like this is entertainment with a very specific ending and purpose in mind, but it is, you know, which personally those kinds of videos don't really do it for me, because I'm like, same. I'm like, it's too performative.
Yeah, the ones that are staged, that are professional and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this does nothing for me. I'd rather see amateur, like, someone that actually has some like passion and they're going at it and they actually are enjoying it. That brings me enjoyment.
Same.
Not watching two people in pain.
It's
yeah, you like that? Yeah.
Look at that muscle fatigue. They are really tired. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that's an interesting thought. Like, when did it shift from that, hey, I got the extra sausage pizza you ordered, like, here to clean your pipes? When did it shift from that being the norm to more of the, because everything is saturated right now with the reality-based videos, right? So when did that shift from that staged, very performative, look to a more, and I'm gonna use air quotes for those listening on the actual podcast, reality-based, look? Because I feel like most people are probably in the same camp for sale.
I would say, honestly, with the rise of social media, people realizing that they could get in on the sex work themselves, and then especially with OnlyFans here recently, it's really exploded.
I think that is one of the coolest things. Like OnlyFans, like, it's just scrolling through Twitter and just seeing people that have OnlyFans. I was like, that's so fucking cool. Like, this is so cool that people, and even on Pornhub to a certain extent, it's like, you know, people who are verified get a portion of the ad revenue and stuff like that goes through. I'm like, this is because I'm a big proponent of disrupting the traditional establishment in industries. Like, I love seeing the music industry just sort of capitulate in the early 2000s with Napster. I'm really curious about what's happening with the movie theaters right now and streaming services, because things are established just because they've been established, and people just follow these rules, and there's these gatekeepers and there's all these things because that's just the way it's always been done. I think obviously the internet changed a lot of this stuff, because it was less of, I have to go to a store to buy this thing or whatever and then bring it home, to it's like, it's on your computer. And then again, like sort of like the gates, all those sort of ways, sort of like there's now thousands of gates for people to get into the end user. It's sort of like the long tail theory, right? Like a lot more things, a lot more garbage along with it, but at the same time, there's a lot more access, and then it's refined itself. And I think people got to the point where, like, I don't necessarily want to see a plot. I mean, for some of those things, it's there, it's exciting. Like, I got stuck in the dryer. You know, like that's what people need to see. But, you know, bro, come help me out. Step brother, come help me out here. But it's one of those things. It's one of those things where that works for some people. I don't think people really wanted to see like the hour and a half. Like, man, is Debbie really gonna get around Dallas or what? Like, what's going on here? It's just like, no, we just want to see the sex, you know?
Right? Who here has ever, like, I don't know, when most recently have you sat and just watched an entire porn from beginning to end without skipping to the scenes that you like?
Great question. No. Never.
Right. They landed on this alien spaceship. How are they going to get out? Oh, wow. Fuck their way out.
That's how they do it, you know? This computer needs love, too. They got to start it up somehow. They have to generate something, you know, some sort of power to get off this planet. Question for sale. In the future, let's face it, anytime someone invents something, you know, like we recently just covered how there's the, I think Johanson Robotics is releasing an AI, a robot for folks in the pandemic. The idea that it's an advanced chatbot is really what it is. But they're offering them to put them in people's homes so they can have someone to communicate with, because, you know, some people just don't have one to talk to. And I was like,
it looks It's scarily human. Sophia is the name of the robot, and she made the rounds earlier last year and all the talk shows and everything.
Yeah, there's definitely an uncanny valley thing going on there with it, but it specifically says at the bottom of the article, just so you know, this is not built for sexual pleasure. But I was like, let's face it, someone's going to be going into someone's going to be going into the hospital with their dick in this thing's robotic mouth,
right?
Because they're like, I don't know what happened. Like it's going to happen. Like,
how was I supposed to know there were gears in there?
Like, it's just whatever. I've also seen things where people have there's like just heads for people to work on dentistry, right? Like in oral hygiene, and it reacts to like if people do it, and people are like, people are putting their dicks in there, like without a doubt, it's happening. So my question to you, as we progress into, I mean, we've got, there's fleshlights, there's all sorts of things. At what point do you think it changes the game if there's like a robot, an AI, something of that nature, something very physical that takes place? How do you think that will affect relationships? Do you think it's something that will detract from it? Or do you think it's something that could, I don't know, we will learn to live with it? Will it enhance? What do you think?
That's a good question. I know there are already out VR stuff. So there's VR porn, and then there's also VR devices that sync up with the VR headset that syncs up with the porn that you're watching. So there's already that kind of stuff, which I feel like the bots and the VR stuff is going to be good for single people or those not really wanting relationships, too busy or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I've not really thought about like bringing a robot into a relationship. Like maybe if I could see it if, like, let's say the couple wanted to have a threesome, but they didn't want the messiness of bringing in a third party and negotiating those boundaries and STI testing and all that kind of stuff. Boom, bring in a bot. Now you got a threesome anytime you want it.
That's a really good point.
Just pull it out of the closet or out from under the bed, and you're good to go. Yeah.
Come on, Sophia.
It's date night, Sophia.
Get out here. Oh, here's another. Going back to what we were talking about earlier. If one party does not want to eat out the other party's asshole, now you got a butt bot, right?
There you go.
Boom. Boom. Done.
Bob the butt bot.
Genius.
All right, it's time. Bring up Bob the butt bot.
Slotty goes, let's not do PvP tonight. Let's just play the AI. Us versus the AI tonight. Let's go.
Oh, God.
No, because I mean, there's like, the sex doll industry is absolutely booming, and just the stuff that they're making these days, I'm like, it's inevitable. It's going to come to a point where there's some sort of advancement in that regard. And there's an ongoing joke I love from the show Robot Chicken from years ago, where someone there's this doctor's like, and here's this machine, it will do all these things, and someone raises their hand in the background, they're like, can you fuck it? The guy, I'm sorry, what? He's like, can you fuck it? He goes, no, and everybody goes, brah, and they all leave, and like that's the end of the sketch. He's like, that's
like, well, fuck this.
Without a doubt, that's what people are automatically being like, I mean, can you fuck it? That's always the question. And I'm curious because in a committed relationship, if someone's like, I just want to, maybe you don't own it, but maybe you go to the local, I don't know, robot brothel or whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to, put in my money and have sex with this robot thing. And I think this goes back to probably what we were originally talking about. Is I'm sure that depends on the relationship too, with what's there, because is that cheating? Is that masturbation? It gets pretty complex in that regard. And I'm curious, and obviously we're not going to have this tomorrow, but stuff like this I think will gradually come into place. But I'm just curious what that would do. Obviously there'll be resistance to it without a doubt right out the gate.
Oh yeah.
But
But then you also have to consider too that if depending on how advanced the AI is, do you need to get consent from the AI to be in that relationship as well? At what point does the AI cross the threshold?
I mean, Sophia already has like, what is it, rights in Saudi Arabia, which is pretty fucked up considering most women in Saudi Arabia don't have rights.
Yeah, right.
So there's that.
Damn. Damn.
Hell in the game, son.
The women are like, what the fuck?
They're like, this garbage chatbot has rights and we don't.
This is some bullshit.
But yeah, I think that's a fair point, right? Like, at what point? Well, that goes across the board in a lot of ways. But I mean, this is basically how the Matrix started, right? AI was created. Humans are like, let's fuck this, and they're like, no, we're real. We have feelings. Like, we don't want to do this. And
I think that was covered in the obviously the Wachowskis didn't put that in the film. I think that was covered in the ancillary comic book material.
Well, it's actually in the Animatrix.
Matrix Origins.
Animatrix is what it's called, Justin.
Okay.
Read a fucking book, all right? Just do that for me. Do me a favor. Read a book.
Wasn't that a show though?
Read a book, okay?
Okay, cool. I got it. Sorry, my bad.
Jesus,
I apologize.
You're always just
God
like,
damn it!
you're always
Tom
just
Cruise. Tom Cruise without shoes, ladies and gentlemen.
That is not Tom Cruise.
I beg to differ. So does Tom.
Yeah, Kit Kat Marie says there was a manga anime series that came out in the early 2000s based around this. Yeah.
Interesting.
Was it the Animatrix? I'm being serious here. I really am. Or was that like a separate series altogether about that? Because that's fascinating, because that's where we're going at some point, is the idea of the AI, which we had a guest on. It's like, by the way, AI is already here. It's in your pocket all the time. It's your phone.
Yeah.
But the idea that that's going to progress and how that can help and also hinder. Because I don't know, VR, porn, do you see, either you guys see a situation where like that could potentially mess you up? Like, does that lead to expectations or sensations, or if you don't get that? I mean, are you guys concerned about that at all?
I don't think so. Like, no more so than masturbation. I mean, as long as you're using like one of the devices they provide, I don't think it's really going to mess with like your sensitivity or anything like that. Whereas if you masturbate profusely, you can like make your private area like less sensitive because it gets and you train your body to get used to that like sensation, or get used to your technique, so then it makes it very difficult to get off with other people. So I don't know, as long as there's like devices that are used for that instead of your hand, and maybe like variable techniques and stuff, maybe it should be all right. But yeah, if it's the same thing over and over, I would worry it's probably going to run into the same lines as masturbation, and like you getting used to that sensation and then making it difficult with partners.
I suppose that would be on the user then to vary which video they're watching. Like if you go back to this, the same VR video using that stuff, and you're watching the same scene play over and over again, that I probably would fall into the same realm as desensitizing based off of masturbation.
All right. Nope.
So key is you just got to watch a lot of different VR porn, and you're good.
I guess
just watch profuse amounts.
I guess the other thing I'd say too is, do you think there'll become a point where technology will evolve to the point where masturbation will be better than sex? Does that already exist?
I'd say it's already like that for some people, just because they have run into bad partners for a long time. So they're like, all right, fuck it, I can just do it better myself type of mentality. I mean, masturbation can be, I don't know. No, it's completely different. Like, I don't know. You have a whole nother person, especially if it's like that passionate. You're both vibing. You're both like in the moment, into each other type. It's hard to get that with like masturbation or porn or anything like that. Like, it's a completely different feeling and sensation, mentality, everything.
I agree.
Yeah. I think, and I mean, I think the hard part with porn too is that if you don't have like notifications turned off, and all of a sudden you're getting like your mom sent you something on Instagram. Ah, fuck. Well,
damn it, Ma.
Damn it, Mom. I'm busy. It's 1:30 on a Tuesday. You know what I do.
Leave me alone. I'm in a meeting.
You're a sinner. You're a sinner, Captain.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like,
that's a good point though. With like, it depends on it's really on the individual probably. Like
Yeah.
if they've had, horrible experiences with partners and stuff, then yeah, it's obviously gonna skew them one way.
If you
What
wait
were you gonna say,
until
Doug?
marriage to have sex for the first time, masturbation is probably the best thing in the world, because it probably didn't go well, and
This is all I know.
that's all I know. Real quick, I just want to bring up something. Are you familiar with the stuff that's been going on with Armie Hammer
Oh boy.
and his stuff with that? First of all, are you familiar with Armie Hammer, the actor?
Nope.
He played the Lone Ranger. He was also the was it the Winklevoss twins in the Social Network Facebook movie. He's been in a slew of stuff. Relatively, I don't know, good-looking dude, actor, whatever. So what was it? That was a week
like
ago.
an A- list actor.
There you go.
Not quite A list, not quite B list.
Yeah, but he's done some stuff. He recently, I was a couple weeks ago, like there was some chats or DMs that were leaked of him, some conversations he's had. Why it's severely one-sided. It's more or less just him talking, and he has what appears to be a cannibalism fetish or kink, where he imagines eating the other person in particular, and some of his messages are pretty aggressive, to say the least. I mean, I think if I remember,
the least.
one of the excerpts was, I just want to slice off a part of your flesh, cook it, and eat it, and then, watch the blood run down my face, and then use the blood as lubricant while I fuck you, and all sorts of stuff like that. Since that's been released,
Right?
he's lost.
He's practicing writing his romantic prose. Yeah, it's a poetry thing. He's going to be releasing a coffee table book later.
Yeah, it's gonna have cool pictures. Yep. But I was
that part was fake. just in case. Yeah.
But I was listening to another podcast where a couple comedians were breaking this down. They called a mistress to basically be like, "Hey, are you familiar with this kink, this cannibalism kink?" And she's like, "Is he the one getting eaten, or are they the ones, or is he the one that's eating people?" Because she's like, "I've had, clients who prefer to have me talk to them like they're locked up in a cage, and they want it very adequately described how she's gonna cook them and eat them, and that's their jam." But she's never heard of it where he's like, "I want to eat you." And here's, I'm like, you guys can't see For Sale's face. It's pretty horrified right now. Didn't know if this is something you'd run across.
Okay, so I don't like kink shaming, but there's an extent, right? There's an extent that crosses a line for me. That is out there. That is some out there type shit.
Ooh, yeah. Hard to wrap your head around that one.
Said it's not my jam, and Metrodome goes more like they would be her jam on toast. I was like, very funny. Old fashioned heathen goes, "So what I'm hearing is he's single?" Well,
he is now. He wasn't, but
because I look at that as again, that's pretty far out there, right? We talked about with daddies and littles. That is a little uncomfortable for some folks, and this goes beyond that. And because I think my thing is is this only a fantasy? Does this just stop there? Is this we're talking about fantasizing about killing people, and
so I would say before I read this other article a couple days ago that it was most likely a fantasy, but I read about, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a whole industry on the back end of donating your body to science, including
I was
literally I don't like where this is going.
including that your body can be used for military blast testing, can be hacked up and sold off for parts for various doctor presentations or science classes and that kind of stuff. So you could be chopped up and sent wherever. In the article, during the investigation, because this was on Reuters investigates. You can look it up on there. The body trade. They ordered some parts and pieces and got shipped with very little effort. Very little effort. So, seeing the recent posts about like cannibal kinks and shit, and now reading that article, I'm like, bro, no.
I was like, where's the story going? I'm waiting for they could be blast tests. I'm like, okay, what's the third thing he's gonna say? It's like
blast test.
Yeah.
Necrophilia. Like, oh no, that's not what I'm into. But
I suppose here's the thing: if you donated your body to be used for whatever, if it comes to, and this is just me playing devil's advocate and just kind of seeing how you guys feel about this. If there's a way to safely act out this fantasy, find your gratification with it without harming anyone, and it is through this ordering of body parts who people have donated, maybe for this, does that make it better? Does that take the worry out of it?
Like, I shouldn't have to sit there and think about if I'm donating my body to science, is my finger going to be shoved up some guy's asshole and then eaten later as my dying, as my final contribution to society.
But think about all the good you'll be doing for that one guy, man. I mean, come on.
I'm going to sign this paper.
He's living his best life.
Oh man. I mean, I personally wouldn't care. I personally wouldn't care because I'd be dead. I'm like, whatever, man.
Wow.
I'm like, whatever. I don't want to be buried or whatever. I want to be cremated anyway. So whatever. If you want to,
there you go,
throw my ashes on your body because that makes you feel good, whatever. It's fine with me. But typically, I'm like, when I'm dead, whatever you want to do, man. It's fair game.
I'm gonna remember that.
Okay.
Now I have one goal: outlive Doug. And
that's a very
desecrate his body.
Ominous thing to say. We're good friends. Love you too, buddy. I need to outlive you. Why? It's a secret. It's a secret. You'll never know.
Don't ask questions.
Slotty says a very different weekend at Bernie's. Yeah, very much so.
Oh.
Whew. Oh
boy.
Good stuff.
So
there.
Go ahead, please.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say there's another kind of kink that I've heard a lot of people speak of recently, and I wanted to see if you guys had heard about this. If I'm remembering what it's called correctly, it's
welcome to the Throwdown.
It's a kink called the Throwdown.
Well played, Justin. Well played.
Thank you.
Seamless transition as always.
I don't pay attention all show. I just look for that one opening. That's all I do. Phone it in the rest of the time. All right, Douglas. In honor of our esteemed guest, please give us our Throwdown.
All right. Our Throwdown this week is Sue Johanson versus Dr. Ruth.
Excitement fills the air. So if you don't know, Sue Johanson and Dr. Ruth Westheimer, they are little old ladies who talk about sex all day.
You can find them on OnlyFans. They've got great,
most people have probably heard of Dr. Ruth. The three of us, along with most of you, probably have no idea who Sue Johanson is. Just know that she's Dr. Ruth's counterpart.
From Canada.
That's all it is. From Canada. Am I right?
So let's see here. What do we got here? Some
Old Fashioned
background.
Heathen comes out strong, saying Sue. I would totally subscribe to her OnlyFans. We got one Sue Johanson fan in the house.
So apparently, Sue Johanson, recorded a very popular show. It was called, the U.S. version was called the Sunday Night Sex Show. It's actually renamed Talk Sex with Sue Johnson. There you go. And it ran, and she talked about sexual life, love and relationships, call-in segments, included live calls. This is basically like Loveline. Talking about all sorts of stuff. And Dr. Ruth. Here's the thing about Dr. Ruth. Dr. Ruth is a trained sniper.
Nope, done.
I think that's very, very important.
Okay.
She's 4'7", and she was trained as a scout and a sniper in Jerusalem.
Damn.
Come on. There's
She of this experience, she said, I never
literally fucked you up.
I never killed anybody, but I know how to throw hand grenades and shoot.
That sounds like something that someone who has killed someone would say.
Right?
I think she's got secrets.
Oh, Slotty says, I remember Sue from Public Access TV at like 3 a.m. in the early 2000s. So needless to say, pretty popular. So, Justin, how are they meeting? Like, how are Sue and Dr. Ruth, like, what's the scenario in which these two decide to throw down in their arena of choice?
Sure. So they are both, they both got booked as keynote speaker for a sex fest, a sex forum, a sex
conference.
Happening. Thank you. That's the word I was probably
sex fest.
At a
sex fest.
I'll tell you what. No, sex fest. I'm sticking with it.
Go back here. Sex fest.
Right. So they were both.
Welcome to 2021.
We got, yeah, two keynote speakers is better than one. Anyway, so yeah, they were both they were overbooked, two keynote speakers at the same sex fest, and they both meet backstage and they're like, well, what are you doing? I'm supposed to go on. And Dr. Ruth is like, I was the one who was scheduled for this. And then Dr. Sue's like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go on, And so they're just like, they're at each other's, it's getting pretty heated backstage, and they got to figure out who's going out. One's going out, one's going in a body bag.
So Sue is, are they both like, they're both, all right. So Sue is 90.
Oh. Ruth is older.
Ruth is 92.
Yeah.
So
Ruth
the question is,
she's a sniper.
Does that still equate to being at 92,
Oh,
she knows how to throw grenades. She's German. She's the full package, man.
Yeah. I think yeah. I mean, I gotta go with the military experience, I wrestled for a few years, and I feel like while I'm not as good as I was, those techniques still exist in my brain. I trained on them for a long time. I may not be able to fully execute a double leg takedown, but I know how to do it. And if someone did something I would naturally know how to, I'm like performing it right now. I'd go under like this, keep the body tight,
I'll say this: if you look, just Google image search Sue Johanson, and if you're all looking at the same ones I am, third in from the left on the top row, she's flexible. She might be able to do some damage. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I forgot about Sue. Holy crap. Now that I see her, that makes so much more sense.
How tall is Sue?
But I don't know, man. I say Dr. Ruth, she's small, she's scrappy. I think she's there. Okay, if you Google her and you scroll down, there's a picture of her in front of a wall of guns. I'm giving it to that lady. Like there's no question. You gotta.
I mean, like what's What is Sue gonna do? Apologize her way out of it? Sorry. Sorry, eh? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there's way more pictures of Sue holding a dildo than Dr. Ruth, though. So
Hold on.
if that counts for anything.
Dr. Ruth.
I love Jared goes, of course you Americans assumed the gun lady would win. Wouldn't you?
Right. Hey, look, they didn't work against the emus in Australia, so he has his reservations about how effective guns are.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, she will, but it's still very American. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, thank you, question mark.
Yeah, I think she's gonna know where all the pain points are. She's been trained, right? She knows where those weak points are. I think she's gonna be able to exploit them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gotta be Dr. Ruth.
Will. Yeah, I think go Dr. Ruth.
Yeah, Dr. Ruth. We gotta go. Dr. Ruth for the win!
Nice. Excellent. Oh, for sale. This was so much fun, man. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and chatting with us. This was wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This was a blast.
So this is the part of the show where we like to give our guests the opportunity to, again, like anything you want to promote. If there's any shows, movies, music, anything you want to recommend as well that you think people should check out, books, anything like that, the floor is yours, my friend.
Sure. So definitely pop by on Thursday on Twitch. We do the talk show Collective Thoughts. It's a sex positive talk show talking about sex, relationships, dating topics. Any questions you have, any advice you may want, anything like that, you can submit it. You can pop by pretty much my Twitch channel anytime, type !question in chat. It'll pull up the anonymous link for you, so you can submit questions anonymously, and then I'll add it to that week's discussion panel. The Thursday before Valentine's Day, I'm either trying to put together a couples panel or a dating panel. I'm trying to figure out which one to go with here. So keep an eye out for that. I'm looking for people to participate in that. So if you like doing that type of stuff, definitely hit me up. Outside of that, on the 13th, which I think is Sunday, maybe. Hold on.
I think it's Saturday.
Okay. So Saturday the 13th. So Valentine's Day is on Sunday. Saturday the 13th, starting around 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Discord. We'll be having kind of like a get together. We'll have different performances and demonstrations going on, including BDSM rope tying, BDSM like flogging, BDSM electricity. We'll have some adult like pole dancing going on. We'll have EDM flow dancing going on, like all kinds of stuff, including like DJ'd music, and it's just a good chance for you to come out, experience that kind of stuff, like see and learn about it, because you can ask questions and you get to know the community, and you get to like let loose and just have fun with everybody, because COVID's going on. Can't exactly go out and party right now.
That's really cool, though. I love that.
You did something similar for Thanksgiving, didn't you?
Yeah. Thanksgiving and then Halloween.
That's awesome.
Yep. Nice.
That's cool. So if people want to find your Discord, they can check that out at your Twitch channel? Or how can they find their way to your Discord?
Yep. Let me grab a link. Do you mind if I put a link?
By all means. It might get automatically flagged, so
automodded, yeah.
But if it does, I'll have one of our mods just go ahead and make it so. But at the very least, we'll also we'll put it out there in the universe as well. So you all can find it. Super cool. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. You all should definitely go check that out. I think that's a really cool opportunity just to meet For Sale's amazing community and just hang out, get to chat with people. I think that's really, really cool. And also don't forget just to check out For Sale Wednesday through Saturday as he streams at twitch.tv/ForSale18. Is that correct?
ForSale18, and then if you have TikTok, ForSale18 on there as well.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Justin, what do you have to recommend this week?
I started watching at lunch today. The Little Things, I think it's called.
I've also watched that.
Things. On HBO, it's the new Denzel, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. It is so far really cool. Just a real good cop, gritty thriller drama thing. If you're a fan of any one of those individuals, you'll like this movie. It's very, very good. And then oh God, I had something else and I lost it. I don't know. Doug, what do you got?
I've also seen Little Things, enjoyable movie. I also highly recommend The King of Staten Island, featuring Pete Davidson, Bill Burr, Marissa Tomei. It's a phenomenal Judd Apatow movie. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really, really good. It's streaming on HBO Max right now, so absolutely check that out. It's a phenomenal film, so it's absolutely great. Yeah, go ahead, For Sale.
So I just remembered. So we watched a movie this past weekend called In and of Itself on Hulu. The only catch is you can't look up anything about it beforehand. You can't watch trailers. You can't read anything about it. Nothing like that. Just go watch it on Hulu. Okay. And I promise you, it is like it is super, super, super good. And it's only like an hour and a half long. That's it. But in and of itself, it is it's a movie that gets you thinking.
Wow.
Amazing.
Okay, so it's called In and of Itself?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mini Marcus says you must watch it. Okay. All right. I like that. That's so good. Also, gang. I forgot
to add too. Haig went and saw The Marksman.
Right.
In theaters, and he said it was definitely a recommend. Go see if you're comfortable going to the theater, or wait till it comes on streaming, but definitely watch it. He thought Chris Charles's explanation of it did it justice, and he liked it. So
yes, very cool. I love it. I'm so glad.
That's it.
Good. Gang, don't forget to follow us on all our social medias at MindGap Podcast. Don't forget to follow us also on our YouTube channel. Subscribe there. We post full episodes as well as highlights from our streams there. And don't forget to follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MindGap Podcast. For all your wonderful entertainment needs, we stream our podcast live on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central, and we do video game streams Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central as well. So don't forget to come out this Saturday, February the 6th, as we head back into Dungeons & Dragons, the fantasy board game. It'll be great. It'll be a good time. And Justin also exists digitally as well.
That's right. On Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on Spotify, iTunes, or not iTunes anymore, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, all those things. Share, subscribe, like, rate, review. The big one is sharing. If you can copy the link, send it out and say, hey, check these knuckleheads out. You'll like them. That means a lot to us. And then 2east8th.com/mindgap. And then just keep an eye on all 2east8th stuff for new news and exciting events.
Wonderful. Once again, For Sale, so thankful to have you here. This was wonderful talking to you.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And everyone, please go check out ForSale18's Twitch channel, all of his cool stuff. He's doing good stuff out there. And Justin, I'd also like to say thank you.
Douglas, thank you so much.
Twitch, I'd like to say thank you.
And listeners, a big thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week.
MindGap Podcast.